Welcome back to the 4-H Clover Connection on Lone Star Internet Radio. We thank you for joining us this afternoon. Moving into our next segment, we have another guest here in the studio with us, and Lauren is going to introduce our guest. Lauren?
Hi, so today we have Dr. Bill Bergfeld, who is a veterinarian and owner of Conroe Feeder Supply, and Dr. Bergfeld is a good friend of mine. For our club, for our 4-H club, we had one day 4-H, and we collected donations for Inspiration Ranch, which is a ranch for kids to ride who have disabilities, and we ended up collecting 80 bags of horse feed, which was really exciting. So, Dr. Bergfeld, how are you doing today?
Very good, Lauren. Thank you.
Good. We're going to ask you, Seth and I are going to ask you some questions about your career and how 4-H has led you to be so successful. So what sparked your interest in agriculture, and where did you grow up?
I grew up here in Conroe. My family has always been highly committed to the agricultural industry. Of course, my dad started the actual Conroe Feeder Supply in 1957 here in town, and from that point, he began developing a commitment to the community, did a lot of work with the 4-H and the FFA organizations in the area, and helped create some of the things that now are recognized and well known as the Montgomery County Fair Association. Years ago when it started, it wasn't near as large or effective as it is now. But he had vision back then and brought that into play. Along with several other key community leaders, and so many young people now benefit from what they began years ago. And so that is how I got my start in agriculture. Of course, my love for horses and my desire to ride, and that particular part of my life actually continues to go on. So that's exactly how I got started in 4-H. Just a few weeks ago.
And Seth, do you have a question?
Yes. So, what are some of the reasons that made you want to be a veterinarian?
Well, back when I was a student in school, I did some work watching my own horses get into complicated situations, illnesses, lacerations, injuries, things like that, and recognized that back then when I was a youngster in this area, there were only 2 veterinarians in the whole county. And so they were highly in demand, and when you had a problem, they were always occupied somewhere else, and you had to wait, and you had to wait, and you had to wait. And I thought, we need to bring some more veterinarians into the county, and what better thing for me than to go into that field myself. And so even when I was in junior high and high school, my picture of getting into veterinary medicine was born. I kept it alive, kept it burning, and of course went ahead and finished those wishes through college and even into a career.
That's great.
Yeah, that is. So, what is it that you love most about your job?
Well, of course, the most important thing and what I love the most is the fact that I get to help people. We're all here for serving others, and that's exactly what I get to do more than anything else. I get to serve horse, animal, chicken, pig, goat owners. I get to serve those people, but at the same time, I'm also serving those animals. So I get to, I get a twofold job there. I get animal service and people service all at the same time. So that's a blessing for me.
That's great. Well, I'm going to hand it back to Lauren now.
All right. Since you grew up through 4-H, what can 4-H do to help kids prepare for college in the future?
Oh, my goodness. There's a long list that 4-H can help with.
Yes.
I think probably the biggest thing 4-H can help with is it teaches young people the truth behind being responsible. So many people don't understand that responsibility is an individual situation. They think responsibility is someone else's task, but it's actually an individual task. And 4-H teaches young people that they can be responsible not just for the animal or the project that they're working with, but it teaches them to be responsible with their checkbook, with their money, with their schedule, with their time. It teaches them to be responsible with their morals and their character. it teaches them to be responsible in all sorts of things. So responsibility is the first thing it teaches, I truly believe. The other things, and I can continue this list a little further, the other things it does teach, it teaches some nutrition aspects for the animal kingdom that most people don't seem to understand. A lot of people think milk just comes from the grocery store. That's not true. I mean, that's where most people buy it, but it actually comes from the farm. It comes from the animal. And so agriculture, 4-H, those things are taught to young people, and they actually get a picture of just how wide and how important the agricultural industry is. The picture should be for every young person that if there wasn't agriculture, the grocery store wouldn't have anything to put on its shelves. And so if you eliminate agriculture and the education involved with agriculture, the only thing that'd be on the store in the grocery store would be toys and drugs. And neither one of those are going to sustain life for very long. So agriculture is super important. So it teaches young people responsibility. It teaches them the truth behind the need for agriculture. It teaches them to get along with other people. And to me, that's an important thing too, because learning how to get along with other people in your organization, learning how to get along with your parents, teaching parents how to get along with their kids, it teaches mutual respect. And so you get all that aspects, so responsibility and agriculture and responsibility and getting along with each other. All those things are just big, giant, broad topics that bring it right back down to the fact that 4-H covers so many things that young people need to learn that I learned years ago. And, I wish I could still practice the good things, all the good things that I learned from 4-H. But, sometimes with age you do forget some things. So,
how did 4-H help you become successful?
It taught me responsibility. It taught me, number one, that I need to be the person that's responsible for what goes on in my life. I need to be responsible for what goes on in my family's life. It taught me how to take a project from start and stay with it all the way to the end. That so many people get to a point where they start a project, and when it gets difficult, it's time to change and go get another project. No, 4-H teaches you that when you start a project, you need to carry it all the way through the end. It teaches you how to maintain proper records, teaches you how to budget for that project. It teaches, 4-H teaches a lot of things that really mature a person. And nowadays, those concepts aren't taught too many other places other than in 4-H.
Mm-hmm. Since you work at the feed store, what products and services does Conroe Feeder Supply offer?
Oh, my goodness. We could be here for hours talking about that. Feeds, fertilizers, herbicides, pesticides, insecticides, some hardware, some fencing materials, my goodness, vaccines, some pharmaceuticals, hay, grass seed, and the list could go on and on and on. So that's an all-encompassing question. If you can think of something that someone might need to maintain either their animal, their property, whether it be ranch land or a lawn, or even the inside of their home, their apartment or their home, we probably have something that they could use at the store.
That's great. So what advice would you give for someone that wanted to maybe become a veterinarian?
Number one, be prepared for the fact that it's not going to be easy. Understand up front that veterinary medicine is a career that requires dedication. And it not only requires dedication when you're learning the career in schoolwork, dedicated to studies, dedicated to creating high enough grades to get into school, but dedicated to a point where you're doing things other than reading your class schedule and your class books. You've got to have outside curricular activities. In order to get into vet school now, you've got to be more than a bookworm to get in there. And so you've got to be prepared to commit to those things. And once you finish school, then you have to be committed to the profession, so that you're doing the things necessary to take care of the animal to the best of your ability, but under the direction of that animal's owner, recognizing that your commitment is to the animal, but you're also committed to that owner, their wishes and what they need, what they can do for that animal. And so it becomes a very difficult situation. You have to be committed to accepting some rough decisions when that happens, and you have to be committed enough to understand that sometimes rough decisions are just that, rough decisions. You have to be committed to the point where, especially in large animal veterinary medicine, there's no such thing as time off. I mean, it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. As far as I'm concerned, that's the true veterinary profession, and the reason I retired early is because I'd spent so many years following that routine, and I felt like when I reached a point in my life where I needed some break for that, I could no longer stay committed to the profession or to the animal or to the animal's owner as I needed to be. And so that commitment starts when you begin your education. It continues while you're practicing, and even after practice. Now that I don't really do public practice, I'm still committed to the profession by giving instruction, counsel to people, by giving advice, and probably I have to be so committed to this one that my major advice to most people when they come into the store and they ask me for their help, my major advice is, that you've got a real problem, something that I can't fix, something that you can't fix. You need professional help. You need to get in touch with a veterinarian of your choice to get it taken care of. And that's the key word: commitment from start to finish, education to retirement.
Well, that's some great input. So, one more question: what can our youth do for the future, and what advice do you have for them?
Well, our youth are the future, and if I were going to give some words of advice at this point in time, number one, I would say, first of all, pay attention to what's going on around you. So many people get caught up in the heat of things that they don't pay attention to what's really going on around them, and they get involved in things that aren't productive. They get involved in things that aren't conducive to good citizenship. And so be aware of what's going on around you and involve yourself in those things that are going to produce good results, not things that you might regret in later life. And so that's probably the best thing I can suggest for you.
That's great.
All right. How has the agriculture industry changed over the years?
Well, I can tell you this. When Dad first opened the store in 1957, Conroe and Montgomery County, the primary industry here was dairy. Today, there's not a single dairy left in the county. From that point, it went from dairy to hogs. Some of the largest hog farms in the state were right down there where the Woodlands is located right now. No more hog farms in the county. From hogs, it went to poultry and laying hens and laying hen houses. Huge laying hen houses out east of town. No more. Completely gone. From there, it went to the cattle industry, the beef cattle industry, with Rampy ranches, and I can name several large ranches in the county. No more. They become subdivisions. And so from there, it's now shifted into the horse industry and the dog and cat industry. That's where we are now, and I can see the county shifting from the horse industry, decreasing a little bit, into primary dog and cat and backyard agriculture and family flocks. 5 and 10 chickens in the backyard. That's kind of where it's headed.
What advice do you have for future 4-Hers?
Get involved. Number one, don't just think about it. Act upon it. Get involved. And once you make the commitment to get involved, do something. Don't just sign up and take part. Do like you guys are doing. Become part of the county council. Become part of the leadership section, because 4-H, that's just the other part of the whole thing. 4-H teaches agriculture, but also teaches leadership and community service.
So what steps did you take while you were still a student and preparing for college and your career?
The steps as a student that's pretty easy. I went to class. I just refused to miss class because if I did, I was already behind. I'd take my notes in class, come back immediately when I was finished with class and rewrite my notes so I could read them. Because most of the time when I took my notes in class, I couldn't read what I wrote. And I spent a lot of time making sure that I was prepared when exam time came. And learning preparation that's 90%. Being prepared is 90% of getting into college, finishing college, and getting out in the world. Being prepared.
That's great.
What job opportunities are there in the agriculture industry?
Huge. Obviously, the extension service is one. You've got some great extension personnel in Montgomery County, so that's certainly one thing. You've got the veterinary profession, you've got the beef industry, you've got the dairy industry, you've got meat processing, you've got inspection, you've got judging, you've got raising individual animals. My goodness, you've got farming production, feed production. You've got the whole agricultural industry, including wildlife, to be a part of.
Wow. So when did you know this was the career you wanted to have?
I think I made that decision probably along 5th or 6th grade.
Wow.
Made that decision based upon the fact that we just didn't have the help we needed and we had injured animals. And so I made that decision way back then, and it was so important to me that I just stuck with it all the way through. Still involved in it.
Wow. All right, that's cool. So how long did you go to college for?
Well, I was fortunate. I was in college. I finished my bachelor's degree in 3 years and finished my doctor of veterinary medicine degree 2 years after that. So I was in college for only 5 years. Nowadays, it takes a little bit longer, I think. So I took the shortcut because I saw no reason to stay in school any longer than necessary.
Mm-hmm. All right.
That's where that commitment comes to now, with making sure that you're ready to have that when you're getting ready for college.
Very true.
Mm-hmm.
Very true.
Great. Well, thank you again. We'll be back in just a few minutes with the 4-H Clover Connection on Lone Star Internet Radio.
You're listening to the Extension Hour on Lone Star Internet Radio every Friday afternoon at 1 p.m.
Howdy, folks. Cable Smith, host of the Lone Star Outdoors Show, inviting you to join me Saturday mornings from 7 to 8 on Lone Star Internet Radio for Texas' premier hunting, fishing, and outdoor talk show. So pour yourself another cup of coffee and pull up that stool a little closer to the old campfire, because if you can catch it or kill it in Texas, we're going to talk about it. That's right. Bucks and ducks, gobblers, monster bass, redfish, trout, and a whole lot more. Plus, you never know what outdoor celebrity is going to drop by, from Phil the Duck Commander Robertson to fishing legend Bill Dance or everybody's favorite Uncle Ted Nugent. Heck, we might even mix in an interview and hear some brand spanking new Texas music from one of your favorite Texas musicians like Robert Earl Keen, Brandon Ryder, or the honky-tonk kid himself, Aaron Watson. Loved or hated but never ignored, it's the Lone Star Outdoors Show with me, Cable Smith, Saturday mornings from 7 to 8 right here on Lone Star Internet Radio on irlonestar.com.
Did you know there are more than 790 abused and neglected children currently in foster care in Montgomery County? Will you help make a difference? I'm Allie Stevens with Casa Child Advocates of Montgomery County. We train and support volunteers to be the voice of children in the foster care system. Kids are removed from their home because of abuse and neglect, and we need volunteers just like you to advocate for these children. To learn more about becoming an advocate, please visit CasaSpeaksForKids.com. That's CasaSpeaksForKids.com.
At Jazzy Junk, volunteers reclaim, restore, and recycle. Jazzy Junk is a non-profit resale storefront where you will discover wonderful, unique finds at very affordable prices on furniture, antiques, books, art, home decor, and more. When you shop Jazzy Junk, you support New Danville, a community for adults with developmental disabilities. We receive new donations daily, so plan a visit to Jazzy Junk today to find that perfect item or gift. Our motto is here today, gone today. So remember to hurry in and shop often for the best selection. Jazzy Junk is located in the outlets at Conroe on League Line Road and I-45 North. Call 936-441-4500 or visit our website, jazzyjunk.org. That's JUNQUE for more information and store hours.
The Conroe YMCA's benchmark adaptive programming for kids and adults is Leap of Faith. Leap of Faith is an equine-assisted therapy program serving children and adults with adaptive needs. The riders in our Leap of Faith program are working to address and manage specific aspects of their lives impacted by illness, injury, or disability. The Leap of Faith program has experience working with riders who are living with attention deficit or other hyperactivity disorders, hearing impairments, visual impairments, developmental delays or disabilities, autism, Down syndrome, multiple sclerosis, muscular dystrophy, head traumas, brain injuries, and paralysis. Our program uses horseback riding to develop self-confidence and self-esteem, to increase upper and lower body strength, assist in respiratory issues, and establish a trusting relationship between the rider and their horse. Not only do these activities aid in the physical and mental development of the rider, but they also foster self-reliance and independence. For more information regarding our program, to become a rider, or to volunteer with a great group of people, please call our Welcome Center at 936-441-9622 or visit our website at www.ymcahouston.org/Conroe.
You are listening to the Extension Hour on irlonestar.com. And we're back with the 4-H Clover Connection on Lone Star Internet Radio. Thanks for coming back and listening. We still have our guest, Dr. Bergfeld, here with us in the station, and Lauren and Seth are going to continue with some questions.
Okay, Dr. Bergfeld, how has the Montgomery County Fair Association grown over the years?
Well, years ago, when the Fair Association first started, it wasn't even called the Montgomery County Fair Association. It was just called the County Livestock Exhibition, County Livestock Auction, and the original production took place at what's now known as Candy Cane Park down on Interstate 45. And there were, the Carters had some dairy animals, and some other families had some beef animals out there, and that was the extent of the Montgomery County livestock production at that point. From there, it moved to the Cow Palace, and the Cow Palace, of course, used to be out on Highway 105 East, I guess maybe a mile and a half out of town. No longer there anymore, but the production actually moved there. And then shortly after that, the county commissioners got together, decided, it might be a pretty good idea to dedicate a piece of property and create a fair area, an area to have the Montgomery County Fair, or the Montgomery County Livestock Show. And so they found this property out there across from the airport, made appropriations to purchase that property, and of course the fair has taken off from there. The original arena, there was only at the beginning, there was only one arena out there, and it was half covered, half open. That original arena was dedicated to the 4-H and FFA clubs in the county by Mr. Frank Horlock way back years ago, and of course that served as the show arena, as the riding arena, as the rodeo arena. It served as the whole shoot match for years. What happened is many of the community leaders, and all you have to do is just pay attention to the Fair Association now and look at their board of directors and the past board of directors and the past executive committees, and recognize that those men and women became so committed to the youth of the area that they created the association years ago, and it became so important to them to expand and grow that organization to a point where it could help as many young people in the county as possible. That literally thousands of volunteers now take place in taking that entire production, put it on over a week's time, and carrying it from from poultry to rabbits to beef cattle to horses, and carry it into the non-livestock show to 4-H exhibition of production equipment like farm equipment and welding things and traps and cattle chutes and cattle feeders, and my goodness, there's all kinds of things that go on at the county fair now that involve young people and their projects. And it's grown from just a handful of folks at Candy Cane Park, 15 to 20 animals at a time, to where now there's hundreds of hogs that show at the county fair, and 40 or 50 replacement heifers, and I don't know how many 100 steers and chickens and turkeys and rabbits, and I don't know how many different cakes and pies and cookies, and everything else is put together at that fair. Floral exhibitions, my goodness, the talent of the young people in the county is just amazing, and that talent has been the spurring effect that's created so many people to become involved in the Montgomery County Fair. So it's grown from just a handful of folks at Candy Cane Park to thousands of volunteers out here that take place the first of the year, every year, to put that whole production on.
Wow, that's amazing. So I know there's a lot of new non-livestock projects in the fair now. Do you have any input on that?
I do. I don't really get to do a whole lot with them, but I do spend a little bit of time going out there, going through those projects when they're doing the judging. I like to go out there and I don't really participate in the auction of those things, because there are a lot of other businessmen that like to make their investment in the Fair Association in that particular area. We elect to do it in another area, but I do like to go out there during that point in time to try and get an idea of what young people are involved, not only in the non-livestock exhibition part of the fair, but the livestock, because you'll find that young people would, if they can get involved in any part of the fair with the project, then they're encouraged to do so. And I like to see who's willing to take on more than just one shot. Who wants multiple shots at the turkey? Who wants multiple shots at the table? And I like to see who that is. I also have noticed that at that particular part of the fair, you get to meet some of the business people that aren't necessarily agriculturally educated or interested, but they're interested in young people. And so those business people come to that part of the Fair Association. They make their contribution and their commitment to that part of the Fair Association. And so you have pies, you have cakes, you have floral displays, you have arts and crafts and all sorts of different things that become part of a judged event. And now those particular projects become an auctionable item and an income-producing item for those interested young people.
It's really cool.
What are some of your most memorable patient cases over the years?
Well, let's see. I would tell you about in fact, I'll go ahead and tell you. It's an embarrassing story. It's something that I'm not proud of it, because it was a terrible thing to have happen. It was something that I regret seriously and still do, even though it happened years ago. But it's a humorous story from veterinary school. When I was a senior and I was in small animal clinics, there was a lady that brought a really beautiful Persian cat into the clinics, and she needed to get its rabies vaccination. And she set the cat up on the table, and as I'm beginning to give the vaccination, the cat turned around and bit all the way through the web of my hand, between my thumb and my pointer finger,
Wow.
and just hung there. And I couldn't pull him off. And so, acting very ignorantly and regrettably, I slapped the cat up against the wall, trying to get him off my hand. Unfortunately, the cat did not survive. And I saw my entire college career pass before my eyes in just a few seconds, because I knew it was over. Here's this beautiful cat. This lady sitting here, she sees every bit of this happen. And I knew they're fixing to kick me out of school. I'm not going to graduate. I'm never going to finish my degree. It's all over. And I looked at the cat, and I looked at my hand, and I kind of covered my hand and bandaged it up with a paper towel, and looked at the lady, and I looked back at the cat. Neither one of us had said anything yet. We looked back and forth at the cat and each other several times, and finally she looked at me and she said, I have wanted to do that for so long. She said, that is my husband's cat. I have hated it since he brought it home. As far as I'm concerned, it had a reaction to the vaccine. I thank you very much. Where can I pay my bill? And I sighed the biggest sigh of relief because, now it's safe for me to tell the story. I didn't tell the story for years because I was afraid they'd come take my license away. In fact, they may come take it away anyway now. But I was afraid that, my whole life was over at that point. But unfortunately, there are circumstances that protect people that make stupid mistakes sometimes. And that was one of those situations where I had a protector watching out for my stupid mistake. So like I said, a very ignorant act, a very stupid act, a very regrettable situation, but thankfully it turned out to be okay. So that's one. That's one very I never will forget that one at all, ever. I've had several, and it's amazing how you remember the ones that seem to be impossible to fix. And no matter how many things you tried that didn't work, they still recovered. And so I can remember horses that would come into the clinic and they'd be limping, and I'd go through all diagnostics and I'd say, well, this is it, and we need to do this, and so we'd do that, and they'd come back in a week or so later and it's still not right. So we'd go back through diagnostics again and we'd work on the same leg again, and it's still not right. And I can remember we'd go through several things like that, and then all of a sudden you think of something that is so obvious that you should have thought of it the very first time the animal came in, and there it is staring you right in the face, and all you simply need to do is pluck a little nail out of the shoe that's just a little too close, and you solve the problem. And so that happened more than once, is fixing things that were so obvious that I should have seen the first time. Memorable cases. Many times I would take care of race horses, especially over in Louisiana and over around the Beaumont area, that the owners were quite wealthy. In fact, one of the owners would send his helicopter over to pick me up and fly me over to take care of his horses on a weekly basis. And that helicopter would land right in front of the clinic, and I'd always think, well, they're going to hit power lines here one of these days, but they never did. And I can remember loading everything I could think of onto that helicopter and flying to Louisiana and taking care of his horses, and then him flying me back, and that was a memorable situation. I can remember when I first opened the clinic out on 2854, the road was just 2 lanes with no shoulder. It was, in fact, once you got past the San Jacinto River, it wasn't even paved yet. And so, I can remember seeing things grow, but most especially I remember those times when you go out late at night and people would call you with an emergency. They had no one to help them, and they would call, and you go out in the middle of the night, and you'd be there more, yes, for the animal, but more to comfort them as well, to let them know someone was willing to come help. And nowadays, that to me, that's an art of the profession that most veterinarians don't seem to take as sacred anymore, is the fact that just because you close your clinic at 6 o'clock in the evening, your duties aren't over. You are still on call. You are committed to the animal no matter when they need you. And so I can certainly remember going out in the middle of the night, taking care of cattle, taking care of herd horses. And to me, those are the memorable cases. Those.
All right, Dr. Bergfeld. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and hopefully we'll have some folks come in and visit you over at Conroe Feeder Supply.
Thank you.
And we appreciate everything that you brought, all the knowledge and the insight, and We appreciate you joining us today.
Caroline, thank you. I appreciate you and the entire Extension staff. My goodness, y'all, you do so much for the county, and I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We'll be back in just a few minutes. 4-H Clover Connection on Lone Star Internet Radio.
You are listening to the Extension Hour on irlonestar.com.
The East Texas Dream Center is in need of your help. We are a nonprofit Christian organization that houses women and children who are trying to get their lives back after being homeless, abused, or addicted. We are conveniently located at 301 South 1st Street, Conroe, Texas, 77301, right here in Montgomery County. Our needs are financial and every needs of gasoline, cleaning supplies, laundry soap, Lysol, and whatever else God puts in your heart. To help our ladies and children, please consider a donation. You may visit our website at www.easttexasdreamcenter.org. Again, so you don't forget, it's www.easttexasdreamcenter.org. Donations are tax deductible. Remember what Jesus said, with God, nothing is impossible.
You're listening to the Extension Hour on Lone Star Internet Radio every Friday afternoon at 1 p.m. We're back on the 4-H Clover Connection. We have just a few more minutes to wrap up the Extension Hour show today. So now I'm going to ask a couple of questions of both Lauren and Seth, just to give us a little bit more insight to the listeners out there about the 4-H program and some things that you guys really like about it. So Lauren, I'm going to start with you real quickly. Tell me a little bit about what your main 4-H project is and why you chose that.
Well, my main 4-H project is the horse project. My family and I, we've grown up around horses ever since I was really little, and my mom, she rodeoed in college, and she was around them, so she kind of brought me up with horses. And also, leadership is also one of my main favorite 4-H projects because I've bettered myself as a public speaker, and it's helped me throughout the years just be able to communicate. Even with my school teachers at school, it's helping me to communicate and talk to them on a more personal level. So definitely leadership and the horse project.
Great. So Seth, what about you? What are some of your main 4-H projects and why did you decide to do those?
Well, I've done quite a few over the years. I've done citizenship, photography, wood science and technology, food and nutrition, consumer education, and I've also done the horse project. So, but my main one would probably be wood science and technology because my dad used to be a carpenter before I was born, and he knows a lot about it. I've got 2 other brothers, and he taught them everything they know about wood science, so it's been great, and he's taught me everything I know, so it's kind of in the family.
Good deal. Tell me about some of the things, a big part of the 4-H youth program is citizenship and also community service and serving others. So Lauren, what are some of the service projects you've been involved in through your 4-H club or through the county, and what did you like about doing those service projects?
One Day 4-H is definitely a main one. For the county council, we went to the Catfish Festival and helped out with some supply, helped kids out playing games, and just gave back to the community, and also collecting donations for Inspiration Ranch. Also, when I was little, we used to go to the nursing home and sing Christmas carols, and that was definitely something I remembered as a community service project, giving back to our community.
Great deal. Seth, I know you've just been involved in a couple of projects as well. We did the Warm Winter Drive, and we also did cards for firefighters. If you ever want to learn more about the Extension Service here in Montgomery County or 4-H, give us a call at 936-539-7823. Thanks for joining us on the Lone Star Internet Radio. Have a great weekend.